On May 16, 2022, Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, New York City Mayor Eric Adams, and New York City Deputy Chief of Detectives Jason Savino held a press conference announcing that rappers Sheff G, real name Michael Williams, and Sleepy Hallow, real name Tegan Chambers, were arrested as part of a 32-person, 140-count gang indictment alleging murder, attempted murder, gun possession, and other crimes. Here's everything you need to know about the case. Sheff G and Sleepy Hallow's gang activities. Drill music has stuck out as violent following the tragic death of rap sensation Pop Smoke, as well as the activities of 6ix9ine and his gang that led to many of them behind bars. In November 2018, 6 members and associates of the 9 Trey Gangsta Bloods, also known as 9 Trey, were indicted with racketeering conspiracy and firearms offenses. The gang, which included rapper Tekashi 6ix9ine, wreaked havoc on New York City. They engaged in brazen acts of violence and showed reckless indifference to others' safety. The members of the gang were involved in robberies and shootings, including a shooting inside the crowded Barclays Center and a shooting in which an innocent bystander was hit. Popular drill rappers Sheff G and Sleepy Hallow's gang, 8 Trey Crips, who partnered with 9 Ways gang, operated in similar ways to 6ix9ine's gang. The 32 men who were arrested were charged with serious crimes including attempted murder, conspiracy, weapons possession, assault, attempted assault, kidnapping, and gang assault. During the conspiracy period covered in the indictments, there were 27 incidents of violence and criminal activity, including 12 shootings with 13 victims, including 1 fatality. Sadly, 3 shooting victims were innocent bystanders. Approximately 37 different firearms were used or possessed by the defendants, and 19 firearms were recovered during the course of the investigation. As we are about to see, the gang's activities are like a scene straight from a mafia movie sprinkled with a bit of comedy. Don't get me wrong, gang activities are horrendous as they end up with people getting shot, robbed, or even killed. However, the activities of the 8 Trey Crips were borderline dumb. From using a group chat to communicate, to leaving IDs at crime scenes, some of the mistakes they committed cannot even be classified as rookie mistakes. Perhaps they exposed something more profound. The gang members were not really built for this life. Even though most grew up around gang activity, it was just not for them, and they would have been better off pursuing non-violent or non-criminal careers. According to the authorities, during the conspiracy period, which they determined to be from March 2019, the 8 Trey Crips and 9 Ways gangs possessed guns, committed shootings, and stole cars for use in the shootings. As is with gangs in the rap scene, their main goals were to maintain geographic control and dominance over their territory, enhance the reputation of the 8 Trey Crips and 9 Ways gangs, and eliminate rival members of the Folk Nation Gangster Disciples and ICG Baby S. The 8 Trey Crips are believed to have the largest territory among the 4 gangs, which was based out of Flatbush, East Flatbush, and Canarsie. The territory of their allies, the 9 Ways gang, runs from East New York Avenue to Church Avenue and from Remsen Avenue to East 98th Street in East Flatbush. The partnership between the 2 gangs to form a formidable force was their greatest undoing. First, they were led by 20-year-old Michael Williams, alias Sheff G. That already was a recipe for disaster. In most criminal enterprises, the leaders are often tough and hardened criminals who know how to stay away from trouble with the cops. In fact, most criminal bosses are certain not to commit Sheff G's first mistake as the gang's leader. The young rapper and gang leader thought it was a brilliant idea to create a group chat which included all the gang members. The group chat would help improve their communication and coordinate their activities better. It is important to note that they did not use sophisticated encrypted apps or software. When I said that the group's activities read like a comedy movie, this is an example. Not only was this a dumb idea, as it left a digital footprint of all their crimes, the cops could easily attribute specific crimes to certain individuals based on their text messages. The gang used the group chat to discuss who would carry out specific hits, where they would pull up on their rivals, and when they would do it. This was the first of many blunders that Sheff G would make, eventually leading to the indictment of more than 24 of his gang members. According to reports, the first move by the gang on their enemies came on May 24, 2019. At around 10 p.m., one of the gang members, Shamari Hudson, alias Shar Beezy, decided to pay his rivals over at Folk Nation Gangster Disciples territory a visit. His mission was to catch his ops lacking and score one for his team. When he got to Clarkson Avenue, Hudson noticed a few members of the Folk Nation Gangster Disciples and pulled out his pipe, letting off shots and making a quick getaway. In his mind, he had just caught a body or two, so much so that he quickly texted in the gang's group chat to make known his triumphant actions against their ops. "I just made S hot in the 50Z. Check the Citizen app," Hudson bragged in the group chat. Citizen is a mobile app that sends users location-based safety alerts in real time. It allows users to read updates about ongoing reports, broadcast live video, and leave comments. Since the app uses radio antennas antennas installed in major cities to monitor 911 communications, the gang could easily see whether Hudson had made a hit on their ops. Much to their disappointment, Hudson's hit was not a success. Turns out he had completely missed, as his intended targets had escaped the ordeal without any injuries. The other members in the group quickly let him know that he had failed. Hudson's failure would summarize the gang's success rate over the next few years, as they were only able to kill one op. It is important to remember that the gang has been charged with over 10 shootings, which means that they did not have very good aim. This was yet another sign that they were not cut out to be criminals. There was a pause on the violence for several months, as the gangs concentrated on dissing each other in music and social media posts, which would also prove to be a huge mistake. According to authorities, the gang members were heavily surveilled as cops combed phone calls, text messages, and social media posts for evidence. What is even more controversial was the use of rap lyrics as evidence in the case. It is worth mentioning that the prosecutors appeared to address the ongoing issue of authorities using song lyrics as evidence. According to them, the arrests made in this case have nothing to do with art. Although the diss tracks between the gangs are filled with threats of violence, investigators claim that detectives did not rely on a single lyric to prove any of the alleged crimes. However, the indictment does have 2 instances of lyrics mentioned, citing the Sheff G track, Play for the Members, which was framed as a message about committing shooting on behalf of the 8 Trey Crips. In the song, the rapper opens with, "We sending shots, beat. We do it for fun, now we send shots, empty clip till he done." Investigators also recall Sheff G posting, for gang, out here playing for the members," on social media in March 2019. According to detectives, this was right before Shamari Hudson's attempted hit on the gang's ops. They linked the post and Hudson's actions and suspect that it was Sheff G's open call for his gang members to start the violence. The other instance is a phone note recorded in January 2021 by one of the 32 men arrested, 23-year-old Olivel Martinez. In the phone note, the young gang member says, "All of them soft if you ask me. I was on a drill last week. He tried to run like an athlete. Got him shot on the ass cheeks." The lyrics were entered a week after investigators alleged that he shot a Folk Nation member in the buttocks. Their failure to secure their communication was not as bizarre as their reason to openly talk about their activities. According to investigators, the alleged associates used Pig Latin to discuss their crimes over the phone in an attempt to evade surveillance. Pig Latin is not actually a language, but a language game used to speak in code. Pig Latin words are formed by altering words in English. For example, the word hello would become Elohe. According to the 8 Trey Crips, there was no way for the cops to decipher this. During one alleged phone call, defendant March Wright used Pig Latin and English when asking co-defendant Jaquan Brown, "Bro, you think cops can understand Pig Latin?" He added, "Bro, you know how I know they can't understand Pig Latin? Cause they was asking, Kamondre Damatu, what's that you talking on the phone? They don't understand that, bro." This is actually hilarious. The fact that they thought that cops would not decipher commonly used slang was bizarre. The young gangsters demonstrated their ignorance in matters that involved the cops. Apart from that, it showed their inexperience in the criminal world. It is common knowledge that cops have access to interpreters who can easily decipher coded languages. Clearly, the 8 Trey Crips and 9-Way gang were doomed from the very start. The next gang-related shooting would take place near the Vanderveer estate, an area where Folk Nation members were commonly found. Robert Mushet, alias RJ Flossie, rented a Mercedes C300 and drove around the area on August 6, 2020. As he looked for ops to put down, he spotted 5 on Foster Avenue. He took out his pipe and opened fire on the rival gang members. Just like Shamari Hudson before him, he failed miserably as he missed his intended targets. And similar to Hudson, he took to the group chat to brag about his achievement, not knowing that his mission had ended up in failure. At this point, the top dog, Sheff G, was not pleased by their failures. He needed to find a way to redeem their street cred, and he had the perfect idea. According to him, they needed better firepower. Since it is difficult to get guns in New York, Sheff G was able to get into contact with the 8 Trey Crips out in Sumter, South Carolina. The rapper would prove to be a master negotiator, as he was able to convince them to legally buy guns in Sumter, drive up more than 10 hours to New York, and sell them to Sheff G for double the price. At the time, money was not a problem for the rapper, as his music career was putting some serious bread in the bank. According to the DA, Eric Gonzalez, Sheff G was using his money to fund the gang's activities. In his words, instead of using his fame and his fortune for the betterment of himself and his family and those close to him, we allege that he used that fame and fortune to elevate gang gang violence in Brooklyn. On September 19, 2020, Sheff G's new associates made the first delivery of firearms. In typical fashion, the rapper took to the group chat where he posted a photo of their new toys. As if that was not enough, he wrote, "When we tut, it's Royal Rumble." This was the first event in a series of incidents that led the gang to their first murder victim. The following month, after Mark Wright, alias Smalls Wu, and Jaquan Brown, alias JJ Band, stole a white Jeep Grand, a few gang members gathered to plan their next mission. However, later that night, Sheff G sends a chilling message to the group chat, a message gang members dread. "Bro, Billy just got shot at." The message read, "Gang members are often afraid of losing their fellow gangsters as much as they are afraid of running to the cop. A dead ally means one less person who has your back." Comandre Decatu, alias Billy, had almost been caught lacking by the ops outside his apartment. Fortunately, the members of Folk Nation also had a bad aim, and he escaped without injuries. Given the close ties between gang members, Sheff G and the rest were furious that their ops had almost killed one of their own. It was inevitable that they would seek revenge by all means necessary. Filled with rage after the attempt on his life, Billy used the stolen Jeep and drove around looking for ops to take out his anger on. He did not have to search for long, as he soon spotted rival gang members on Pitkin Avenue. He got as close to them as he possibly could, rolled his window down, and fired his firearm towards them. Luckily, he also missed, and no one was injured. Disappointed with the results of his mission, he went home and the gang joined in on a FaceTime call where they planned how to get back at their ops. On October 21st, 2020, a few members of the gang headed to their rivals' territory. They hatched a well-thought-out plan on how to attack their rivals and hurt them where it hurt most. What they did not know was that all their actions that night would be captured on CCTV. The group pulled up near Hawthorne Street and Nostrand Avenue, an area where Folk Nation frequently hung out. Surveillance footage from that night obtained by the NYPD showed a white sedan back up onto the sidewalks moments before the shooting started. After it came to halt, 3 guns stuck out of the car, 2 from the side of the car and 1 from the sunroof. After unleashing a barrage of bullets towards their victim's direction, they speed off. Another camera on a different street reveals that this was a carefully orchestrated plan. Another car was used to help the shooters make a quick getaway. From this CCTV footage, a white Jeep is seen blocking off traffic as it waits for the sedan. As soon as the sedan carrying the shooter turns at the intersection, the Jeep follows it and both cars speed off into the night. The next morning, news spreads that one member of the Folk Nation had been shot and killed. Billy had shot and killed Theodore Sr., alias Sniper Blixky, an alleged member of the Folk Nation gangster disciples and ally of Sheff G, rival 22GZ. It is alleged that Comandre Decatu was the one captured on surveillance video emerging from the sunroof of the white sedan. Sniper Blixky was not the only one shot that day. 3 other Folk Nation members and 2 innocent bystanders were also shot. However, their injuries were not fatal. Approximately an hour after that mass shooting, Sheff G allegedly sent a text message seeking confirmation that the gang had scored against their rivals. In separate messages to his sister, Crystal Williams, the rapper sent pictures of the victim and a news article about the incident. This is where the story becomes even more interesting. Sheff G must have thought that he was Don Corleone from The Godfather, as he organized a party to celebrate the gang's win. 2 days after the homicide, it is alleged that Sheff G hosted a lavish dinner with his fellow gang members, including Sleepy Hollow, at a Manhattan steakhouse to celebrate the death of Theodore Sr. This became a trend within the gang as Sheff G continued offering money and giving expensive jewelry to those who committed acts of violence. One could understand why some of the members in the gang risked their lives for the gang. These were people who had grown up in the projects, and now Sheff G was buying them expensive jewelry and even cars. In this clip here, we can see the rapper buying his crew luxury cars and handing out expensive jewelry. One would think that the rapper would keep his hands clean from the dirty street work. This was not the case, as Sheff G would soon be involved in some of the violent acts. During this time, the rapper had rented a large house in Short Hills, New Jersey, where the gang members would hang out. This was perfect since their ops would not easily find or even attack them. That is what they thought until on April 5th, 2021, when it is alleged that members of the ICG Baby S gang shot at the mansion in Short Hills. It was clear that someone had sold them out, and they were determined to get him. If that person had sold them out to their rivals, he would also not hesitate to cooperate with the cops. Sheff G wanted him gone immediately. The actions that they took next against the supposed informer would eventually lead to the arrest of the gang members, Sheff G and Sleepy Hollow arrest. Sheff G and the gang did not hesitate to retaliate, as the rapper confirmed that he would be getting a rental the next day to carry out the hit. Throughout the night, the gang continued to discuss their mission. They soon found out that a former member of their gang called Champ had given out their location. In a sudden twist of events the next day, Sheff G revealed that he would join them on the revenge mission. Gang leaders were never directly involved in doing the dirty work. Perhaps Sheff G wanted to prove a point to his soldiers. Well, his bravado would soon put him in hot water. As if taking part in the hit was not dangerous enough, the rapper made yet another blunder that day. He rented out a black Jeep Trackhawk, which which was registered in his name. This was the car that was used in the attack. With New York full of CCTV cameras and the gang carrying out their hit during the day, it would not take long for cops to locate the vehicle and trace it back to Sheff G. More rookie mistakes that continued to pile up evidence against the gang. The drill rapper picked up Oliver Martinez, Tony Darden, and Kenrick Austri at around 4 p.m. and drove around Brooklyn. The group hit the jackpot as they saw Champ on Church Avenue. Sheff G parked the vehicle nearby as the 3 others exited the vehicle. The 3 walked down the street and opened fire at their target. They then ran back to the car, which sped off. Champ was lucky as he escaped the ordeal without any gunshot wounds. However, 2 innocent bystanders were not so lucky as they were shot. Fortunately, they both survived. The first victim was a 43-year-old woman who can be seen in this video walking with an elderly person, while the second victim was a 53-year-old man who can be seen painfully holding his arm. Security cameras all over the city captured the vehicle as it raced to a secluded place where the gang dumped it. The rapper crossed into the borough of Manhattan and parked the car at 481 Washington Street. They all scattered as the rapper called an Uber to go back to New Jersey. He would later text Oliver Martinez and tell him to wipe the car off anything that would incriminate them. Sheff seemed to forget that the car was registered under his name and the cops could easily trace it back to him. Even more weird is the fact that they forgot to wipe off the car before they abandoned it, and they put one of their gang members in harm's way by telling them to go back to the getaway car. That night, Sheff G's sister texted Martinez to let him know that they had once again failed their mission. In an effort to hide his embarrassment, Martinez lied that Champ had pushed someone in front of him and escaped. He pushed some bitch in front of him and ran. The following day, Darden allegedly shared a news article about the shooting in a group text message between himself, Sheff G, Martinez, and Austri. This confirmed that they were the ones who had taken part in the shooting. Sheff G was starting to get frustrated and desperate. He really wanted to get back at his ops and inflict damage. His frustration was evident in the group chat as he texted, "Y'all be taking years. You see why I want to just do it myself?" While the gang wanted to lay low, especially after their daring attempt in broad daylight, Sheff G wanted to see things happen, so much so that he promised $5,000 to anyone who caught a body. In text messages between the rapper and Martinez, cops revealed that after Martinez confirmed that they would be attempting a hit the same day, Sheff replied, "Say no more on Grandpa. This get done. I got $5K for you." On the 23rd of April, 2021, Martinez, Daniel Jean-Louis, Jaquan Brown, and Shamar Brown also decided that they needed the money and joined in. The 4 drove around the ICG Bobby S gang territory in a stolen car looking for ops to eliminate. They eventually stumbled across a group of rival gang members. They proceeded to open fire on the group. Fortunately, they missed and everyone escaped unharmed after the ordeal. The 4 parked the car on 456 Brooklyn Avenue, wiped it down, and got an Uber back to the mansion in Short Hills. While there, they found out that one of them had just made a huge mistake, one that will prove once and for all that the group was full of rookies who had no business leading a life of crime. One of the members, Daniel Jean-Louis, had dropped their ID in the stolen vehicle. This forced the gang to lay low for a period as things cooled off. On June 21st, 2021, the gang decided to make a move for Champ. As the popular saying goes, snitches get stitches. Champ had allegedly given up their New Jersey location to the ops and had to be dealt with. According to the Brooklyn District Attorney Eric Gonzalez, the gang had spent months trying to track him down, and apart from the day they had spotted and shot at him back in April, he had managed to successfully hide from them.
Day trades and 9 ways spent months trying to track this individual down for retribution for giving up his home, who gave up Sheff G's address.
The DA also went ahead to explain what happened to Champ once they found out where to find him.
Ultimately, 10 members of the captured him one day, kidnapped him, drove him off to a cemetery in Brooklyn, and started to beat him to death. He was saved because some random person called 911 and the police responded, and video of the beating was captured.
This was a plan that all the gang members agreed to and were eager to carry out. In the early hours of that day, around 10 members of the gang hopped into a caravan of 3 cars and headed for Champ's apartment. The group located him at Flatbush Avenue and Albemarle Road, where they chased him down. Once they caught up to him, they allegedly took turns punching and kicking him, then shoved him into a car. It seemed that the gang was not only comfortable with shooting at their ops, they had now graduated to kidnapping them. All 10 8 Trey Crips members got into their cars with their victim and drove him to the vicinity of Holy Cross Cemetery, where they dragged him out of the car and continued to beat, kick, and stomp him. The intention was clear: they wanted to beat him to death. Luckily, a random person happened to be walking in the area and saw him being beaten up. The individual proceeded to call the cops. Champ was indeed a lucky man, as police sirens could be heard in the distance. As the sirens grew louder and closer, the gang jumped into the cars and sped off as the cops arrived to rescue Champ. It is important to note that the cops have not released Champ's real name, despite having capturing him on video being beaten up and even having taken him to hospital. All hints point to one conclusion: Champ must have turned into a police informant after the incident. Having successfully hid for months after giving up Sheff G's location to his ops, Champ had almost been killed as they had finally caught up with him. Since Sheff G had enough resources to track him down wherever he would have gone to hide, and his new gang proving unhelpful in protecting him, Champ must have figured out that the only way he could get out of his current situation with his life was cooperating with the cops. This must have been a difficult choice for him, as he was practically committing street suicide. He would never show his face in the streets again, as even his own gang would turn on him for working with the authorities. By working with the cops, he would become an outcast. However, he seemed to have a lot of info that would guarantee him a good deal. If he had been part of Sheff G's gang, then he must have handed over his phone to the authorities. This could explain why cops had a lot of text messages relating to the gang's activities. However, all this is yet to be confirmed, as the authorities seem to be protecting Champ's identity. It is important to mention that as all this was going on, the rapper was out on bond following a 2020 case that he was fighting. Court documents showed that in August 2020, the rapper led 2 Nassau County Police Department cars on a high-speed chase through a Long Island town. He sped through an intersection and swiped the bumper of a woman's car before crashing into a tree in a suburban yard. The woman filed a lawsuit against him for damaging her new Cadillac. In January 2021, Sheff G would find himself on the wrong side of the law yet again. He was stopped by cops at Farragut Road and 42nd Street for allegedly driving recklessly through East Flatbush without a license plate. Upon searching the rapper's car, they found a loaded .45 caliber Glock and 9 rounds in a hidden compartment. Sheff was arrested and charged with 3 counts of criminal possession of a weapon and 2 traffic violations. In October, Sheff G pleaded guilty to criminal possession of a weapon in the 2nd degree related to the arrest. He was sentenced to 2 years in prison and was held on Rikers Island. While here, a video surfaced showing the rapper playing GTA. You may be asking yourself why Sleepy Hallow has not featured as much in this video as his fellow drill rapper. It is important to note that he has also been indicted on RICO charges, even though he did not participate in the shootings or kidnapping. The rapper is framed as a conspirator in the gang, in part for being in a video in possession of a gun with co-defendants, being present with co-defendants when they had guns, and a social media post where he's purportedly throwing down the Folk Nation hand gesture, which investigators perceive as a sign of disrespect. The indictment also references him making phone calls and texts with other co-defendants, including Giovanni Cholut and Daniel John Louis in October 2021. The same day Cholut allegedly stole a car that co-defendant Kamandre Damatu is accused of using in a Flatbush mass shooting that killed Theodore Sr. and injured 5 other alleged Folk Nation members. After Sr. was killed, investigators claim Sleepy Hallow was present at the celebratory dinner organized by Sheff G at Manhattan's Brooklyn Chop House. Sleepy Hallow is also charged in the indictment as a co-conspirator for attending the dinner. That is the danger of RICO charges. RICO stands for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. It is a federal law established in 1970 to combat organized crime. States have their own versions of this law. Because of the difficulty of charging each member of a criminal organization at once, lawmakers give prosecutors the ability to charge anyone who engages in a pattern of racketeering activities such as murder, arson, bribery, money laundering, drug trafficking, and robbery in connection to a group. To be charged with a RICO violation, an individual must have allegedly engaged in 2 of the aforementioned acts, or have co-conspired with someone who did over the course of a 10-year period on behalf of an organization. Sleepy Hallow satisfied the conditions and was indicted on the charges. The cops looked determined to have all 32 gang members behind bars for a long time. According to the NYPD chief, no longer will these 32 individuals shoot their guns in the streets of New York City, and we as a city are safer for that, which shows his determination in putting them all behind bars. There may be a silver lining for Sleepy Hallow and other gang members included in the indictment. In RICO cases, the authorities prefer to take down the top boss. This helps ensure that they cut funding for criminal activities as well as discourage gang leaders in other sects from participating in criminal activities. Therefore, cops try to have the gang members turn on their bosses for lighter sentences, while the top dog is handed a harsh sentence. The NYPD chief may have confirmed this when he stated that we focus on the small number of extremely violent people who have made up their minds that they will continue to do violence no matter what happens. Doesn't matter if they reach fame and fortune, they're going to use their fame and fortune to enhance their ability to access dangerous guns. A good example of this is the RICO case against Young Thug and his gang YSL. On May 9th, 2022, Young Thug, Gunna, and 26 others were named gang members in a grand jury indictment. The 88-page grand jury indictment alleges 182 instances of the group participating in gang activity and criminal conspiracies. Gunna, a close friend to Young Thug, admitted that YSL engaged in criminal activity so he could get out of the RICO charges. Many saw this as snitching. However, he was not the only one to take a plea deal. Other members of YSL have also been offered deals, which they have accepted. For example, YSL co-founder Walter Murphy received a 10-year jail term for pleading guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to violate Georgia's RICO Act. In the agreement, he received 9 years of probation and had 1 year of his sentence converted to time already served. Many more rappers, including Unfunk, Lil Duke, Antonio Sumlin, Slime Life Shawty, Trontavious Stevens, and Antonio Sledge, have made similar deals, with some of them pleading guilty to further crimes. The intention behind giving co-conspirators plea deals is to have enough evidence to mount a watertight case against Young Thug. Soon, members of Sheff G's gang may also start getting plea deals to turn on their boss. Since Sleepy Hallow was not heavily involved in violent crime, it would be interesting to see whether he will be offered a plea deal and whether he would take it. As the gang members wait for their day in court, the rap world also waits to see how events unfold. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.